free trade is here to stay. You know, in states like Pennsylvania and Ohio, and actually, frankly, throughout the nation where we're seeing an economic downturn, one of the things that we are seeing the candidates do is to say to the American public, we're going to bring jobs back, and this is how we're going to bring jobs back. We're going to get rid of NAFTA. We're going to renegotiate NAFTA. We're going to make sure that we don't sign a free trade agreement with Colombia. We're going to get rid of free trade, and this is how we're going to get United States workers employed, and that's just not going to happen. And what we will see is that come January, regardless of who the next president is, free trade is here to stay. We will enter into a free trade agreement with Colombia. If a Democrat happens to be elected in November and takes over the White House in January, that's when the Colombian Free Trade Agreement will get signed and business will go on as usual.
You know, you never think about free trade tearing families apart, but the reality is in the Clinton family it does. Bill Clinton is for a free trade deal with Colombia and Senator Clinton is not.
Well, it actually makes you wonder, what does Bill Clinton and Mark Penn, for that matter, know that Mrs. Clinton and Senator Obama don't seem to know? You know, it's interesting. Many nonpartisan economists will tell you that free trade...
Bernard, is this a weakness for Obama?
You know, it could be a weakness. It's really going to depend on how he handles it. The reason that there's a difficulty for Senator Obama on this issue is that we will continue to see through November those pictures. They're very dramatic pictures of Senator McCain when he was a prisoner of war in Vietnam. This man is a war hero. He is a military strategist. He is very, very well respected within both Republican and Democratic circles. And what Senator Obama does not want to do is to appear too dovish in comparison to Senator McCain, just as Senator McCain does not want to come off as being a warmonger. I think what Obama does have on his side is the whole issue of judgment, and we'll have to see what happens. The McCain ticket, if that were to happen, I think millions of Americans will be thrilled. She actually spoke at an event at the Independent Women's Forum 2 years ago, and she got up and she gave a speech very similar to something that we saw Barack Obama did. And she sat up and spoke to a very conservative audience and basically said, who would have ever thought that after being a descendant of slaves, that I would become the Secretary of State of the United States. She talked very easily about race, about international women's rights, about human rights. I think she'd be fantastic and really boost the McCain campaign. The takeaway for me, David, really was we didn't learn anything about what any of the candidates are really going to do. I think John McCain was obviously, at least in my opinion, the most pragmatic about it. Regardless of what any of these candidates tell you, the bottom line is, for whomever is the president in January of 2009, we are going to be in Iraq for a very long time. That is the bottom line, and it's really just political hijinks to be telling the American public that we're going to withdraw troops, you know, and that it would, whatever we heard from any of the candidates yesterday, we really didn't get a clear idea of how they are going to do it, and also make sure that our nation is secure. Iraq is a greenhouse for terrorism, and nobody's talking about it.
But Harold, what about the idea that if General Petraeus, the bottom line is, what do we know about these people and how they make decisions, how they deal with stress, and how do we judge them based on organizations they have run? This is the biggest organization they've likely run.
It's a fabulous question, you know, and the only way that we can really gauge how they will deal with these issues is just by what we have watched with Senator McCain. His campaign was called for dead. The media paid absolutely no attention to him last summer, but he resurrected his campaign. He resurrected himself. He is the presumptive nominee of the Republican Party. So what that tells us is that he's a go-getter. He's going to keep fighting. He will fight until the very end. He's not going to give up. Obama, he has shown us that he thinks outside of the box. He is able to reach out to Democrats. He's able to reach out to Republicans. He is good with free market policies on some issues. No infighting, very smooth campaign. We can expect that, I would assume, if he ends up being the Democratic nominee. For Senator Clinton, we've seen mass defections. We've seen a lot of problems politically that have really done her campaign some harm, a little bit reminiscent of her husband's presidency, and I would assume, based on what we have seen to date, that that's what we might see if she becomes elected the next president of the United States.
It becomes hopefully Senator McCain felt good about the intro and got up there and gave a good speech. Bless the young man's heart.
But Michelle, it's a real issue. You know, Chuck wrote about this in First Read today about you know, the apology being such a staple in this campaign, and in some cases these are candidates put in a position of having to apologize for people who are the warm-up band.
Well, you know, they got to really worry about their surrogates, but I've got to tell you, I mean, I think this is a very close call. I know that there are people who feel that this statement kind of sniffs of racism, but I don't see it. And as we see more and more African Americans like Barack Obama and like Tiger Woods really be at the top of their game and reach the pinnacles of what we call Horatio Alger and the American success story, we can't get upset when you can compare somebody, compare one another. He didn't compare him to some gangster rapper like Suge Knight. I mean, I cannot imagine any golfer, for example, who would mind the comparison to Tiger Woods. And, you know, Lindsey Graham saved the day yesterday, and I believe said that if Tiger Woods was watching and would play one round of golf with him, he would drop Senator McCain like a hot potato.
I must say, I'm rooting for Tiger. I'm rooting for Tiger this weekend.
All right, the Reverend Woods thing, I'm scratching my head a little bit. Like, what does she mean exactly here? Maybe I didn't quite get the joke.
Well, I got to tell you, I'm a female and I don't quite get the joke either. I suspect that comment could be a little bit dangerous for her, particularly in the African American community where we see African American women being very protective of their men. I don't know that she meant, I'm sure she didn't mean it in a negative way. She obviously loves her husband, but it's questionable. I have no idea what she was talking about.
I think it is always, you know, it's always endearing when Michelle Obama or somebody else sort of knocks their spouse down a peg, you know, especially when they're, you know, so popular as both Clinton and Obama are within the Democratic Party, Chuck. We'll be watching. All right, Michelle, what do you see tonight?
David, my prediction is that Senator McCain has recovered from his foot-in-mouth disease. Yesterday, in questioning General Petraeus before the Senate Armed Services Committee, he made a quick slip-up that he recovered from pretty quickly in confusing the Sunni and Shia Muslim sects. I think that gone are the days when we will see Senator Lieberman whispering over Senator McCain's shoulders and explaining to him what a Sunni and a Shia Muslim is, and what the fact that Al-Qaeda is Sunni and not Shia. I think Senator McCain is going to be strong, and he's going to demonstrate to the American public that he has strong political and moral leadership and will lead us out of Iraq in a way that secures the American interests.
Do you think he threaded the needle yesterday, being both skeptical of Petraeus and supportive of the surge?
I think he did the absolute best that he could. I think that it was very critical for him to have any kind of support from the American public, that he not be, you know, completely pro-Petraeus, pro the surge, that he asked very difficult questions, which he did, but he also did a very good job of demonstrating his support for the surge in Iraq.
All right. Thank